So here we are, friends. This is video number 50 that I have uploaded, or that I'm, well, not at the time that I'm recording. You know what? I'm awkward. Let me start this again. Hello, YouTube, people. No, it's not right. Man, this is number 50 and I have to get it right. And this is starting to bother me. Greetings. No, see, now I sound like I am an alien. Like I'm not from Earth. Greetings is a terrible way to start something. But hi, my name is David. How are you? And this is my 50th video. And for this one, I am answering some of the questions that you have been so kind to pose. So let's get straight to it because there's a lot to cover. Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. So this is video number 50 for me, which is a really big mark. And the reason it's a big mark is because I did not think I would get this far. I don't know about you, I'm the type that tends to start projects and then not do them anymore. And not because I don't know how, but because I just don't. And even when I started this whole YouTube thing, I mean the second time I started this whole YouTube thing, I was thinking to myself, you know, I'm not sure how far, like, my expectation was, you're probably going to throw up like 5 or 10 videos and you're going to see that nobody cares. And then you're just going to close it out. What ended up happening is I ended up really enjoying the process of just sitting here and talking to a camera, because there's nobody else in this room and I can be by myself, which is pretty cool. And, I don't really journal, because my handwriting's crap and I can't, and my thoughts don't work that way. But being here and talking to the camera and then just throwing it on there and letting myself out has been something that's worked for me. And one of the rare times I just kind of found the project and I'm like, you know what, this is really cool and I want to keep doing it because I am having a great time and I'm getting to know some really awesome people. And one of them is you, or all of them are you. Most of them are you. You're involved. You're definitely part of this process. So what I wanted to do for this video is answer some questions and just have people throw some stuff out. You know a bit about me, those of you who've been watching, that I'm an INFJ. I've got a lot of different interests, and psychology is just one of them. Mainly, I have this channel up because I'm writing and I'm trying to document the journey of that and all the trials and tribulations that come with being a creative person. A lot of you know some of my other interests that, I'm a dad. I've got, I've had a lot of experience in martial arts and that is a big part of who I am. And so a bunch of questions came flooding in and I'm like, you know what, we're just going to do this and this is going to be super fun. So I actually have them on my phone. And yes, that is an octopus pop socket. And I'm just going to go down and have at it. I've been looking at the ones that you've been posting and just kind of copying them out and putting them in a document. And I don't really remember a lot of them. So even though I've read all of these, I don't really recall because there was a whole bunch. So I'm going to try and get through this the best I can. Hopefully everything works and is grand. And I for this occasion, right, for my 50th, it was like a reward for myself for my 50th video. I got myself a new microphone, a lovely Audio-Technica microphone. So hopefully you can listen to the sultry sounds of my voice and all that. So we're going to do this and here we go. First question that came through. So I had a few from Kim. Kim asked a bunch of questions and I'm just going to go at it. So Kim asks, question number 1, Kim asks, how are some of the most successful ways you have dealt with procrastination? Deadlines. Deadlines help with procrastination because when you have to get something done, you actually just have to get something done. That and understanding how I work creatively. And that's an important aspect to this whole thing. Knowing that I have a tendency to procrastinate. And as an INFJ, you can kind of, hopefully this resonates with you. You want something to be perfect and you want it bad. You want it perfectly so bad that you end up hesitating on actually starting the project or getting it done or getting it to completion. And so knowing that that's how I work and trying to forgive myself a little bit for that need and pushing through that way really does help me. I think where I had a lot of difficulty with projects, I'm able to accomplish some things now, but where I had a lot of difficulty was not understanding why I was procrastinating. And understanding that I'm procrastinating because I want it perfect that's been very freeing to me. So that's actually a really good question. Next one. Where do you see yourself in 20 years? Oh, I don't know. I see myself still writing. I don't know, maybe I'll see, is like, do you think YouTube will be a thing in 20 years? I don't really know. I mean, like everything with big tech is kind of insane right now anyway. So who knows? Maybe you'll be watching me on a pair of like glass goggle things, or like in VR, like I'll be like hanging out in your living room with you or something. It'd be kind of weird, but I mean, who knows? I'd hang out with like Keanu. I mean, that'd be cool. All right. Next question. Kim asks, at what point in your life did you learn you were an INFJ? How did it happen? Do you think it changed your future to learn what type of alien you are? Oh, man. Okay, so a little bit about my story as far as finding out I was an INFJ. I can't really peg an exact year, but I'm going to say probably about 25 years ago, 20 to 25 years ago. I was in my early 20s, probably somewhere right around there when I discovered it. I took the test, found out that it was an INFJ, and I'm like, man, this is really, really resonating. And I wasn't mature enough to understand what that actually meant. And I was in a place where I wasn't a good person. I had a lot of difficulties when I was in my early 20s. I moved all across the United States, going from place to place, going from job to job. And frankly, I just wasn't a good person. And I ended up getting a job in Portland, Oregon. And I lived out in Portland, Oregon for 2 years. And I vaguely remember this place. My boss at the time, her name was Sue. And she sat me down and she's like, look, you're really smart. You're very talented. You can think on your feet and you've got a lot of charisma. Why are you this person? And why don't you go ahead and hold yourself a little bit more accountable? And that singular conversation, all of 10 minutes in her office for the company that I was working for, changed everything. And I started making little adjustments and I started listening to her voice in my head. And that helped me a great deal. Fast forward, getting my life together and having kids and all of that kind of stuff falling into place. And I start to lose my way again and lose my direction again. And that's where I kind of rediscovered. And I'm like, you know what? I have to do something self-help oriented to figure out who I am. And so I started diving into the INFJ stuff again. And then I picked up a couple books. One of them was Bo Miller's. I forget exactly what the title of it was. If I can find it, I'll put it in the links down below. And but I started reading some INFJ books, and these are written by great people. And one of them I opened up and I read, and I'm like, you know what? If it looks like this person followed me around for my entire life and documented everything and threw it on the page. The way it resonated was unbelievable. It really felt like I was being spied on, to be honest. It was kind of creepy. And I'm like, there's something more to all of this, and there's something more here. So then I start studying a little bit more as far as your cognitive functions, your shadow functions, and how all of that works. A quick aside, because I do have a lot of people that ask, if you don't know what an INFJ is, and I'm sitting here going on and on about it, I'm throwing that link down there too. I've had a lot of people making angry comments like, you're talking about being an INFJ and I don't know what that is. Well, there you go. So it's there. Anyway, so this book was like my user manual, and I went through it and I read and I absorbed, and then I started reading about shadow functions and just how these behaviors manifest. And from there, I started really understanding myself a lot better. And I was able to make the right decisions for the way I think. Something you have to keep in mind, and I think everybody has to keep in mind when we're talking about MBTI and we're talking about being an INFJ, is that just because you're an INFJ doesn't mean you are a specific thing. You can't say, I am an INFJ, therefore I have anxiety. I am an INFJ, therefore I can't have a job where I'm around people. That's not true. That's completely false. And that's all the pop science nonsense that's online in regards to being an INFJ. And what you have to understand is that your personality does not equal how you think. The INFJ determines how you think. It determines how you process information, how you gather it into your head, how it processes, and how you react from there. But it doesn't mean because I'm an INFJ, like I don't like oatmeal for breakfast, or because that's your personality. And those are two completely separate things. Once I really understood that, and I understood that this is a framework for how I think, then I could start to recognize when bad patterns would happen, or when I was feeling a certain way, when you get that pit of your stomach feeling like something is wrong, I'm not really sure what it is and I can't identify it. I started to understand, okay, my intuition is going nuts right now on a subconscious level, and I'm starting to feel stuff from other people. I'm looking around and my FE is going nuts, and I'm trying to use my internal thinking to process what's going on. And once I realized how all of those parts work together, man, everything just got a lot better. And so that's really anything. If I would have advice for a younger INFJ, it's to read and research, make sure that this is what you really are, and understanding that you are an independent person. All right, so let's jump to another one. Let's see, Ivory Toria. Okay, on the Fighting Depression as an INFJ video, asked a bunch of questions. How do you feel writing as an INFJ? Do you portray your stories so that more people can understand them, or do you only write in which way is the most fulfilling for you? If I wrote for other people and with the goal of being published, I would never write anything. So there are two camps here. One of them is, well, people want to read young adult fiction. You should write young adult fiction. I come from the camp of, I want to tell the story that I have to tell. It's the one that's in my brain. I can close my eyes and I can see the entire movie start to finish. Like every single thing, every character, every nuance, every personality trait, the beginning, the ending, all the twists, all the turns, all the conflict, it's all in there. I just need to get the words out. And my belief is that if I write a story that resonates for me, and I've got a lot of people that I connect with that I can personally resonate with, that they'll be interested in what I have to say. My main character, the main character in the book that I'm writing, is named William St. Denis, and William shows many INFJ tendencies. He's got a lot in common with me, and at first he's a difficult person to like because he's in a place where he is searching for his identity and he is searching for meaning and he is trying to put all these patterns and things together. He very much thinks like I do because I'm writing the guy. Not every character in there is going to be an INFJ. Geez, that'd be a boring book. Like they're all just alone in their rooms, so you have to write different ones. And I actually do look through different personality types to implement some of the ways that they think into the characters that I'm writing. So I can write extroverts, so I can write people who are manipulative, so I can write a narcissist, all those different things. And, my story is about William's journey, and I very much tell it from an INFJ perspective, where he has to find his identity and find his way. And for me, it makes the story come out a lot easier that way. So I kind of write with that in mind. Let's see. Another one that he asks is it frustrating anyway, especially starting out, as far as being a writer? And how do you start being a writer? Well, that's easy. Write stuff. I mean, write stuff. You're a writer. That's pretty much it. You're never perfect. There's no thing that you get that says like, congratulations, you're a writer, like some kind of, whatever. I mean, sure, you can go to school for creative writing or for, become an English major or something like that. But if you want to write, man, just put the words down. Another one he asked was starting out. Have you made a video about this? Or I think you've made a video about this, but do you work a job that sustains you and your family? Is writing then a process to complement your job? Is it a hobby? So on and so forth. Do you want to do it full-heartedly? Yes, I have a pretty complex day job, and I'm a programmer. I'm a database programmer. And for me, it's kind of great. I get to work at home. I can work in my unicorn slippers and do the things that I need to do and pay the bills with that job. And in the meantime, I write. And it may never be a full-time thing. It might be. I mean, who knows? But for now, I'm just really enjoying the process. One of my favorite things to do is to hit a coffee shop, open up the tablet, and just put the words down. I love it. I love seeing the story progress. Sometimes, yes, it's very frustrating when the words don't come out the way my brain wants them to come out, but that's what editing is for. So let's get to another one here. And Steven asked, what was the catalyst to write full time, and what sacrifices are you making to pursue your art? Oh, the catalyst. Well, I've always wanted to write. Like I've always had that in me, and I think I touched on that a little bit in one of the more recent videos, just about how I would write comics and draw and stuff like that. It was always stories and things that were in my head that way. But more recently, honestly, the catalyst was my brother passing away, and it made me realize that life is very, very short, and if you are not doing the things that really call to you, I didn't want to be sitting there 20 years from now, thinking, man, I should have started writing 20 years ago. In 20 years, I'm going to be approaching 65 years old. And I'm like, you know what? I can do this now, and I can make the adjustments and change my life a little bit right now to do something that I really love to do. And damn it, that's what I'm going to do. So that was the catalyst. And my one regret, my last conversation with my brother that wasn't through text was a phone conversation where we were talking, and I was telling him about the story and what I was writing, and he was very excited. And he's like, I want to hear all about it, but I have to go real quick. I've got a business meeting. And then the next day, I was flying out to Las Vegas, and we exchanged a couple of texts. We never got to finish that conversation while I was away. He had passed. And so it's always something that's in the back of my head to, to finish this off, and try to make him proud, proud of his little brother. Thank you for that question, Stephen. I appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to move on here. Jolene asks, if you were granted the power to erase one human flaw from existence from now on, what would it be, and how would it affect the world? Erasing one human flaw from existence. Gosh, if I would ever be so presumptuous to think that I could, have that kind of power. Honestly, if I had the power to erase human flaws from history, I would probably use my power to produce tacos instantly, in my hands whenever I wanted, or something along those lines, or to eat all the donuts and never get sick or fat. That'd be great. But honestly, I don't think I'd erase a darn thing. And I know there's a lot of awful things out there, and there are awful people out there. But I feel like the tragic moments, they shed light on the beautiful ones. And I think if we don't have that, if you remove something like anger, well, that does remove the foil for joy, doesn't it? And I don't really know if I wouldn't want that power. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. I wouldn't want to do that. It's a great question, though. That's very thought-provoking. I mean, if it was what superpower do you want? Obviously, I'd teleport, because that's the best one, because then I could instantly be where tacos are or whatever. Next question. Henrique asks, I wonder if you had the experience of taking on mannerisms from others and adapting them to your own behavior without intent. How do you balance the need for alone time and the need for connection with others? Let me answer the second one first. The need for alone time and the need for connection with others is making sure that I do things in small doses and I have a lot of variety. For me, that's key. If I have an entire week where I have to deal with people, that's a really, really rough week. If I have to deal with people in an intense way for a day or two, but then I know I'm getting a bit of a respite for a day or two, I'm very well balanced. And for me, that works out great. The other question was, if you've had the experience of taking on mannerisms from others and adapting them to your own behavior without intent. No, I really can't say that I've experienced that as far as mannerisms go. Obviously we're all a product of the people that we're around the most in our upbringing. And so if your mother always sang when she cooked, and you very well might be somebody that sings when you cook, which is really charming, by the way. So I think those things can really happen, but not from somebody from a more brief interaction. If I'm picking up on something that somebody's doing, it's probably because it's a very long-term relationship that I've had with that person. Moving right along. Anonymous asks, when did you discover you're an INFJ and how does that impact your family life, kids, etc.? Excuse me. I talked a little bit about that just earlier, and that was kind of how I found out and how it really resonated and all those things. As far as family goes, okay, so that one's tricky. People that I know that are very close to me and within my circle, I have very few close friends, and I keep them very close. And they know me, and they know how important that is for me and how I think and all those things. They know my need for solitude from time to time. So that is able to, that's able to work itself out. Even my kids understand. They're like, all right, Dad, you need some time. It's fine. You're obviously stressed or something's going on, and they understand that. And I understand them. And that's really lovely, that they can be that way with me. as far as like work relationships, that gets a little bit tougher because you have things that you just have to do, and it doesn't matter what your type is. Deadlines are deadlines, and you got to get them done. And so there's that. But I think for the most part, people who are close to me know, and those are the important people. And when people don't, I explain a little bit, maybe about how I am, but I also try to learn what people are like. I want to know, what somebody's expectations of me are. I misphrased that. I'm sorry, but I want to know somebody's expectations so I can kind of move forward with that. And so I know how to appropriately communicate with them. I think it's important to understand other people and not always be the one who's like, you have to work around me because I am this way. I don't think that's a healthy way to really treat anybody. This is fun. Let's do another one. Anonymous asked, have you ever had a situation in life where someone toxic did real damage? Oof. After cutting them out, maybe they spread rumors, turned people against you, etc. How did you handle it? Oh God, I could have a whole hours and hours of videos on this. Yes, I have. I have dealt with my fair share of narcissists, which have done some real damage to me. I have dealt with people that were very codependent, which has done some real damage to me as well. I have had people do that exact thing where, once a relationship breaks down, they're saying all manner of things to everybody that would lend an ear. So this is a really tough situation. And I think having the right people around you is what's really important in that. And really a lot of it comes down to that, is having good friends that can support you. It's having the right family around, and just the right people within your circle that you can trust and that trust you. And I think when something does hit the fan, so to speak, that those people around you are the ones that really form that wall for you. And they do protect you emotionally and mentally and physically and spiritually and everything. They're the ones that you can really lean on. And knowing that you have those people is what's really important. I think letting go of the idea that people that are only partially in your life, that are hearing rumors about you or whatever else, don't really matter. They wouldn't be your best friends anyway. So it's learning to let that kind of stuff go. But also, and I'm a big proponent of this, you've got to defend yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with standing up and saying, absolutely not. This is wrong. This is not who I am. This person is lying. And this is why. Having proof always helps too. So the next one, Andrea. Oh, Andrea. This was like one of the questions that I was looking forward to the most. What is your favorite movie to INFJ out to? Oh, this is so great. Okay, so there are a few movies that I think are great for INFJs. There's a great site run by a woman named Susan Storm, and it's called Psychology Junkie, and she has a thing up there, and it's like 25 movies to like INFJ out to. And I was checking that one out just for some other ideas, and like, was there something that I missed? Because I had one in mind, and I know what my favorite one is, but I wanted to see if it was on the list, and it is. One of the ones that they recommended was Amelie, which is really good. She's kind of like a classic INFJ character in there, very like sort of whimsical at different points, but the movie gets serious and then it doesn't. It's a good flick. Princess Bride. Okay. But like, who doesn't like the Princess Bride? Well, some people haven't seen it, and you know who you are. And I'm looking right at you right now. My favorite personally is The Matrix. And, I saw The Matrix in the theater. I think it was released in late 90s. I want to say like 1998, maybe, somewhere around there, 97, 98, 99, that kind of spot. And, not because it's Keanu and like he's the best, but it's the concept of the movie, the concept that our reality is not actually what we're in and what we're seeing, and that there's something more, and it's a huge world. I mean, for crying out loud, this is like it's like INFJ gold right there. I love the mind-bending nature of it. I love the quotes in it. I love Agent Smith. There's not a single scene, story, or character or anything that's in that movie that I don't absolutely adore. From start to finish, it's probably my favorite movie just for that reason. And I remember I went to see it in the theater, and driving away, it was just an absolute, like, my mind is blown to smithereens, because nothing really was like that cinema wise before. And, with the whole bullet time thing where he's like, dodging the bullets and all that, it was just really incredible. Other ones that are like that, Inception, Memento, great mind-bending movies. I'm always a huge fan of those. And those are the ones that I'll INFJ out to more than any others. One of the TV shows that I really got into recently was called Peaky Blinders. And I'm a huge fan of Cillian Murphy, and his character in that show, he plays an INTJ that is just loaded with issues, and he's amazing. That show is not for kids. So if you have them, don't sit down and watch it with your kids. But seeing the different characters in that show, that their personalities are so different and so complex, that one has been really, really, just amazing to watch as well. So yeah, there's a few that I'll INFJ out to. This is such a good question. Thank you so much for that one. Let's move on to another one. Let's see. C asks, do you engage with Enneagram or astrology? I'll be honest, astrology has never resonated with me. Anytime somebody tries to pick at me with astrology and you're like this and you're like this and you're like that, it's typically wrong, or it's such a broad generalization that it could pretty much apply to anybody. So, just like anybody else, I like reading the thing in the paper. It's like, oh, you're going to have a good week next week. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, that's nice. For what it's worth, I'm a Taurus. I don't really, like I said, I don't, it's not something that I dive into. Enneagram, I don't know too much about. I know that I'm a 4-wing 3. And I know that's a creative type that's always searching for an identity. And pretty much, that's, yeah, all right. I'll go with that. So that is a pretty, it's pretty neat. And I know it's, it gets very, very complex in that one as well. I just haven't had time to jump down that rabbit hole so far. Good question. Thank you. Another question by C was, do you believe one's type can change, or is it a part of their nature? Separate personality from cognitive process. And this is what I was talking about before. And this is so important, is that your personality is not determined by 4 letters. Just because you are 4 letters does not mean you are in a particular box as far as who you are. We are all individuals first, and we all have individual likes and dislikes and everything else. Do I believe that somebody's cognitive process can change? I think the way you handle it changes over time. I think as you mature, certainly as an INFJ, some of those functions that are not easily accessible as a younger person do become a little bit more in focus. And I think that is something that's you can look forward to as an INFJ if you're a bit younger, is that you are going to have experiences that let you reach out and work with some of the functions that aren't quite as strong. So not everything is going to be external feeling at some point, and I hope that you're relieved to hear that. And you will be able to think through some things, and you'll find yourself in that loop a little bit less over time. And these are all really good things. I don't know if it can change over time. I don't know if, I don't think you can really accurately test kids with MBTI, because I think everything is still being formed. I'm going to like id, ego, super ego talk and all that stuff. But I think especially through puberty years, which for me hit when I was like 30, I'm finally able to grow facial hair. This has only been like 2 years. This is amazing. I think for kids, you've got to grow into it a little bit. And then I think maybe those cognitive processes are set. I know there's, and also there's gray areas. You can be an INFJ, but you could be so close to being, one thing or another. It's, they really do all kind of mix in. And I think your experience has a lot to say with that. The main lesson is, people, don't put yourselves in a box, please. Like, you are an individual first, and you're all remarkable and incredible. And you are that more than anything else. You just have to get a handle on the way you think. And once you do that, a lot of things open up for you. Again, excelente for the question. Let's go. Let's see. What motivates you, and do you struggle with your passions? A lot of things motivate me. And yes, I struggle with my passions. I think that's normal. One of the things that I struggle with, and I had a whole video on that one too, is imposter syndrome. And just that voice that says that you're terrible and you suck and everything's awful. And boy, that's a fight. That's a fight a lot. You're a fraud, and people are going to find out you're a fraud, and all these kinds of things. And it's just such a nagging, berating kind of voice in the back of your head. And you just sort of power through it. And so that's my struggle more than anything else. I know that if I'm writing and I'm having a hard time with that, and really for anybody out there that's doing creative stuff, whether it's music, writing, art, or anything else, when you have that moment where it's like, I'm just not feeling it, step back and don't do it. You're going to come back to that. And it's okay to kind of forgive yourself. And I had that. I've had a writing day recently where I put down 200 words, which is like nothing. And I was so angry because I'm like, man, everything was fine. Like I had my cup of coffee. I was in my favorite spot and the words just weren't coming out and I wasn't there. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to pack it up and it's, live to fight another day, so to speak. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, next question. How would you define a happy life? What can we do if we don't feel we're fulfilling our potential or being the best version of ourselves? Remember, as an INFJ, FE goes nuts. We focus on the harmony of a group and absorb a lot of that feeling, but our own identity is much more difficult to pin down. Boy, howdy, you're not kidding. And I think that is very difficult because it is hard to find fulfillment. As INFJs, a lot of times we're so in tune to that group and that group feeling that it is hard to take stock. Internal feeling isn't really high on the totem pole for us, to really square our own emotions and our own feelings on things. And because of that, we do have some issues with our identity and struggling to find it and struggling to find our place and know our place in the world and all of those things. And so to define fulfillment, fulfillment for me is just, it's being happy. And it's finding the things that make you happy, being able to do those and having gratitude for those little things. I recently started, I didn't start like a gratitude journal, but I try to make a conscious effort every day to think of something that I am thankful for and just have gratitude for it. And if it's another person, maybe I'll tell them like, thank you. I'm grateful for you. And, I'm grateful that you're in my life. And those are important things to do and say to really connect you, with everything instead of just kind of wandering around saying, I'm not really sure who I am or what I'm doing or what's going on. And I don't know what my identity is. And all I can feel is all these crazy emotions and all this kind of stuff. That is difficult. In my days, running a martial arts school, in any given night, I'd be in front of 60 people and, with different classes and everything else. And I was so in tune with those people that were out there. They were my flock, they were my people. I had to teach them, and they all had their goals and dreams, and they all, they wanted to be black belts or they wanted to learn specific things. And I had all of that in my head at any given time. And at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, why am I unhappy? And I think that's a pretty common struggle for INFJs. We may be in that environment where all those feelings are just being soaked in, and to ourselves, something's just a little off. And I guess it speaks to that alien nature of things. So that was the 13th question. And I actually have, it was maybe a little bit more than 13. I kind of grouped them by people that asked and things like that. And I actually have like 25. So this is a lot, but this is great stuff. And it's a bunch of different topics. And I hope that some of this is at least mildly interesting. I really hope I don't go from, 3,000 some odd subscribers to like 12 after this video, because I've bored half of you to death. So I'm going to get to the rest of these questions on a second video. So I'm going to split it and upload this one here. And then in a couple days, I'll upload the next one, 50 questions part 2. This is great. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. Even though some of these questions have been hard, but it's really important for me to try and get myself out there. Before I do this and close this video off, I want to, I know most of you have noticed this, is this tattoo right here, this INFJ tattoo that's on my wrist. Now, I got this in May for my last birthday. It was my birthday tattoo. I have 7 tattoos. This was just my most recent, smallest, and least painful one, and the quickest. So that was good. And there's a reason I got it, and I got it this way. And the reason I did, and I have it, that's better. The reason I have it this way is as a reminder to myself. And the reminder is that even though I might feel like an alien, and even though I may have a hard time and I may struggle inside of that loop, that I do have a unique perspective on things. And this is my reminder to myself that when I'm writing and when I'm typing words out or writing by hand, which I rarely do, is to let my INFJ-ness out into the world and to be the gift, and to be that person that holds himself up to a high standard and and to just kind of let that stuff out and not be afraid of it. And if there's ever a lesson in anything that I do, any of these videos that you watch, is some of them are super ridiculous, but I want to make sure that you understand, if you're an INFJ and you are feeling that alien nature, that it is okay to put yourself out into the world. And that's my effort here. And I'm taking the heat from some trolls and some know-it-alls who are like, you're not an INFJ, you're an EFMQ or whatever. But you just have to power past that kind of thing and remember who you are. And that's something that does happen as a mature INFJ. And it's something that I hope, if anything great comes out of this, is to just accelerate your growth as an INFJ too. So thank you for this one and for all these questions. And I am going to get the second video up in just a couple days, and we're going to answer the rest of them. And then I'll be back onto some whatever content comes to mind that I feel like throwing up here. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next video.